I've had the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro GMT watch for about a month now, getting to experience everything this watch has to offer. Is it the GMT watch that I was looking for? My review is coming up next. Hello guys, and welcome to the Budding Watch Enthusiast. As you saw when you clicked this video and heard up top, today we're doing the full review of the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro GMT dive watch from Christopher Ward that I have had for about a month now. If you guys missed my initial unboxing and overview video, I will leave a link for that in the description and also pop a card up here right now so that you guys can go check that out. If you missed it, if you want to see the full gamut of features that this watch has, we're going to go to the desk, we're going to take a look at the features of this watch that I really liked and ones that I didn't care for so much, and then we will come back to get my final thoughts. So let's start with the dial here on this C60 Trident Pro, and the dial's really where it's at for me. I love the modern stylings of the dial. The guilloche wave pattern that you see here looks like it belongs on a watch that's in a higher price bracket for sure. Of course, that's probably because it alludes a little bit to the Seamaster Pros that are currently out there with the similar wave patterning on the dial. I do love the attention to detail there. I really do enjoy when watches do that. I love this handset to death. It's very, very attractive in my eyes. Now, this watch is a great example, I think, of where the newer Christopher Ward script really works, because here, since you have it at 9 o'clock, it balances the watch very nicely because you have the date window here at 3, so you have a good symmetry going on there. I also really enjoy the cleaned up text at the bottom here, especially when you compare it to previous iterations of this watch, which had a little bit more text going on at the bottom of the watch there. I think it gives the dial a nice clean and uncluttered look. Now, I will say, while I do really like the layout of the hour markers on this watch and their simple design, the minute track is a little bit of a letdown for me here. I do think it's a little too small. I think that it would have worked a lot better for those minute markers to be a little bit more pronounced, because you see sometimes, like when you tilt the watch forward, that minute track can occasionally get lost in the edge of the crystal, and at certain points, at certain times when you look down on it, it can affect the legibility and the ability to immediately see what time it is and what minute marker that minute hand's pointing to. That's really the only major critique that I have of this dial. So if we move outside to the case here, what you have here is actually a very unremarkable case, a very standard looking dive watch case. Pretty good finishing on this. Of course, a mixture of brushed on the side, polished on top, and directly underneath. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is always going to be something that I look at, especially when looking at dive watches. I understand that when you have a dive watch that comes on a bracelet, you have to put the lug holes at a very specific spot for very specific reasons. However, if you have a dive watch and you don't allow for enough pass-through for a thicker NATO strap, it's the biggest irritant that I have for any dive watch that I look at, if it doesn't allow for a thicker NATO strap. This NATO strap here, this is an Alpha Shark Premier. It's about 1.2 millimeters thick, and you can see that even this NATO strap, and 1.2 is like a standard thickness, even this one has a little bit of trouble passing through those spring bars. Of course, curved spring bars would fix this issue. Shouldn't have to be going out to get curved spring bars just to fit a decent NATO strap through this thing. Now we get to, for me, easily the most vexing part of this entire watch, and that is this bezel. And to be fair, the bezel has a lot going for it. It's a very nice looking bezel. It has great action on it. There's no back play whatsoever, which is excellent to see for a dive watch. It's got a beautiful ceramic insert that is of very high quality, and again, this is what you would expect to see in watches that are in a higher price bracket, and that is the value that Christopher Ward brings. That being said, this bezel is where the identity crisis for this watch exists. Now you look here, it's got the hybrid design of a 15-minute dive timer compared with a GMT, style bezel on the outside. And, you'd assume, hey, best of both worlds. I got a little bit of a timer and the GMT function. And of course, the timer, the part of the GMT function that's missing is between midnight and 6 a.m. when I'm probably going to be sleeping anyway. So it's not really that big of a deal to have it missing. But that being said, I really wish that they had gone one way or the other with it. I wish they had made a choice and said, okay, we're either going to do a dive time bezel and just have a GMT hand, or go full on GMT, which I think would have been preferred for this watch as well, to make it a little bit more distinctive than the regular Trident Pro divers that Christopher Ward sells. And also, come on with this 120 click bezel. Are you kidding me? I mean, I understand it's the same bezel that they use in the regular Trident Pro, just with a different insert, but you're making a GMT watch. Couldn't you at least have done a 72 click or a 48 click bezel so that the GMT, function would be that much more, prevalent and that much more stand out in this watch? Instead, they just slapped a different insert into the regular dive bezel, and it definitely shows. Now let's talk about the movement in this watch. This does contain the ETA 2893-2, which is probably the most ubiquitous GMT movement that is currently out there right now. And that has its benefits and certainly has its drawbacks as well. From a performance standpoint, this watch is running anywhere from +2 to +7 seconds per day, depending on which measuring option that I'm using. I will say, just in the naked eye, eye test, it's probably running closer to that +2 than the +7, which of course is excellent and fantastic to see for an ETA movement. The other thing that I absolutely love about this watch is that the winding action on here is almost as if you weren't winding it at all. It is so smooth. There is zero resistance. You barely even hear the watch winding when you manually wind it. And with the screw down crown as well, not one time has this crown gotten caught on the threads when I've gone to screw it back in. Again, very smooth. But that being said, the 2893 is kind of like a half-hearted GMT movement in my eyes. So with most higher end GMTs that you see nowadays, you see the movement, when you pull it out all the way, you're adjusting the entire watch, the hour and the minute hand goes. But on a higher end GMT movement, you're typically going to see the hour hand be the hand that jumps when it's in the first position. But with the ETA 2893, it's actually the GMT hand that jumps when in first position. So, and again, that's a byproduct of price. You're getting what you pay for ostensibly. Obviously, the watches that have that movement with the jumping main hour hand are going to be a little bit more expensive, but I do find that feature something that I wish that you would see added to the ETA line at some point. Moving on to the bracelet, I can unequivocally say that this bracelet that came with the watch is my favorite bracelet that I've gotten to try so far in my experience with watches. It is very good value for the money. It's very high quality. You got solid end links, of course. One feature that's really nice is, you have this subtle curve on the underside of the links, which lets it hug your wrist that much more. And when you combine that with a very noticeable taper from the ends of the bracelet down to the clasp, it makes it very, very comfortable to wear on the wrist. And then it also contains the ratcheting micro adjustment, which I have to say I'm shocked that companies, smaller watch companies in this more affordable price range aren't using this feature more regularly. I would gladly pay an extra, few bucks, maybe $50 in a dive watch to get this feature because it is so incredibly convenient. Of course, all you have to do is press this switch in and the bracelet extends outward, and then you can ratchet it in to make the perfect fit. And it's something I really appreciate, especially as a person whose wrist usually starts off the day a little bit larger, a little bit more swollen, and then will calm down throughout the day. And being able to tighten that micro adjustment on the fly and being able to get that perfect fit as I go throughout the day is a fantastic bit of convenience. Now, I did complain about the fact that it's tough to get native straps through the clearing on this watch, but as you can see, It does look absolutely fantastic on a NATO strap, as you would expect a dive watch to do. I really do love the Bond style NATO strap with this watch. I think it's an absolutely perfect fit and the perfect look for this watch. And before I give you my final thoughts on this watch, here is what the Christopher Ward Trident Pro GMT looks like on my 8-inch wrist. Again, a great size for me. It might run a little bit large if your wrist is smaller than, say, 7 inches, but like I said, this size diver works very, very well for me. And I'm also a pretty big fan of the height. I don't mind a taller dive watch when it's, you know, like a pro level dive watch like this one is. So those were the individual features that I liked and loathed the most about this C60 Trident Pro GMT. So let's take it back to the desk where I will give you my thoughts on this watch as a whole. Let me start out by saying that this is a fantastic dive watch for everyday folks. It has a water resistance rating that a normal person will never need to take advantage of. It's built very durably. It's built like a tank, but it's still stylish enough, and it still works as a watch that you can wear in like a more formal setting. Like, you could get away with wearing this watch with a suit if you wanted to. It is a James Bond dive watch of sorts in that regard. I can absolutely say that it's definitely a watch that I'd recommend if you're in the market for a dive watch that also happens to have the ability to track a second time zone. That unwillingness to commit to either being a dive watch fully or a GMT watch fully is also this watch's biggest downfall. Because the thing is, if you want a dive watch from Christopher Ward, you can just go with the Trident, the regular Trident Pro line. It's going to give you the wave pattern dial. It's going to give you the Trident style hands. It's going to give you the ceramic bezel. It's going to give you the bracelet. It's going to give you the robust feel, and it's going to do that at a price that's about $200 cheaper than the GMT version is. And likewise, if you're looking for a true GMT watch, a true dual time watch, Christopher Ward has you covered there as well. I love the design of their C8 UTC World Time watch. I think that's a fantastic looking watch, really a watch that encapsulates what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a GMT watch. Now, as far as my personal feelings about the watch, it has been a pleasure to wear. Again, this watch is very high quality, very great value. The value for money, I think, is the biggest plus that Christopher Ward brings to the table with all of their watches. It was my biggest selling point in the review of the C65 Vintage Trident that I reviewed a couple months ago. It certainly rings true here. You know, what you're paying for this watch is, it's going to get you a fantastic dive watch with that second time zone feature, and it's going to work well for most people. And when I looked to get this, I really wanted a dual time zone watch. And the thing about the Trident Pro GMT that really appealed to me is that it was the best of both worlds. I thought that, man, this is going to be great. I'm going to have a dual time zone watch that's also going to be a really robust dive watch, so I can pretty much take it anywhere. It can be a fantastic everyday companion, and I think I'm really going to enjoy having this. And what I found in having this watch for a month is that the limitations from the dual time zone standpoint really do stand out to me. The fact that you don't have a dual tone timing bezel of some kind so you easily differentiate between day and night. And I guess what I've discovered is that in looking for a GMT style watch or a dual time zone watch, I think that I would prefer a watch that leans much more into that aesthetic from its design standpoint than the Trident Pro does. It's like I said, I mentioned the C8 UTC World Timer. That to me is kind of, I think, what I'm looking for a dual time zone watch, and this watch does not deliver that experience. I can also tell you that the C60 is not going to be a permanent resident in my collection. This thing is only going to be around about as long as it takes me to save up for the Tudor Black Bay GMT. I feel like that it's going to be just like a placeholder in the collection until I'm able to get that watch, or maybe even if somebody has the steel version of the C8 World Timer from Christopher Ward and wants to trade it, then I might seriously consider that too, because again, I'm really into the design of that watch and to how it's laid out. It's just to me, it's just a far more interesting watch than this one. So again, if you're looking to get a really solid dive watch that just has that extra bit of functionality with the dual timing feature, then this is an absolutely fantastic watch. But I think that you have to go into evaluating this watch as a dive watch first and foremost, and that right there is going to determine whether or not that this is the right watch for you. But again, a solid watch, but as I discovered in using it, not exactly what I was looking for from a watch that can track multiple time zones. So that is it. That is my review of the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro GMT. If you have experience with this watch and you agree or disagree with some of the sentiments that I've expressed here, definitely let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you found this video enjoyable or informative, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, you can do me an even bigger favor. Click the red subscribe button down below and ring the bell icon. That way you never miss an episode of the Budding Watch Enthusiast that I post. And of course, I ask you guys every episode to follow me on Instagram if you have not done so already. All you have to do is search for @BuddingWatchEnthusiast and you can find me there as well. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you all next time.